Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source of black news, black views, and black opinions. Today is Tuesday, May 10th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, the Senate is passing a bill to improve security for Supreme Court justices and their families. This after crowds have been gathering outside of the court as well as those justices' homes. Meanwhile, Stacey Abrams just got a big donation helping her campaign to become the governor of Georgia. But what billionaire made that transaction? We will let you know. Then an investigation is pending after a man hurled racial slurs at black teens in Miami. We're going to tell you how those teens' families is feeling after the incident.
Plus, Dr. Dre lost out on a $200 million deal. We'll let you know what singer is to blame for that. And Snoop Dogg is investing in a basketball team. Yeah, basketball team. We have all those details. We have all of that and so much more. It's our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Security is ramping up around the Supreme Court. Last night, the Senate passing a bill to improve security for Supreme Court justices and their family. Crowds have gathered outside the court and the justices' homes after the leaked draft memo showed the court is preparing to overturn Roe v. Wade. The bill passed in the Senate with no objections and now moves to the House. Lawmakers also plan to hold a procedural vote as soon as tomorrow to turn Roe v. Wade into a federal law and protect a woman's right to choose. That measure, though, is expected to fail. So far, there have been no arrests, so that's really good. And I'm glad that they are protecting the Supreme Court. People on both sides of the aisle could probably get a little crazy. And this was done with bipartisan support. All 100 senators agreed that the Supreme Court should have 100% around-the-clock security. But it would be great if all 100 senators could get together and agree that a woman should have the right to choose. And not that any harm should come to these senators, and no one's wishing harm on them. But I also think it's important that they kind of feel like they should be shielded from criticism, especially right now when just a few are making choices for the masses, and that sort of sends the wrong message.
You know, I don't think that it's that they should be shielded from criticism. That's not how I looked at it. But first things first, judges should be able to do their jobs and not fear for their life. We do want to address that first. That's why, like you said, this would be around-the-clock protection for the families, which I think is great. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Justice John Roberts, as well as Alito, those were all of the justices' houses that were crowded with people over the weekend. And so Joe Biden, he tweeted that he does stand by peaceful protest, being able to use their voice to protest. But also, going back to your point, Mimi, is that I think that also we have seen it before where if you protest, you create change. That's the narrative. When we were protesting for George Floyd and other things like that, Black Lives Matter, you protest, you get change. And so I don't think that this type of protest is going to make change in these justices' minds. I don't think that it's a point for protest, to be honest. I don't think that people being outside of my home is going to make me change my mind on abortion. But I don't think that people are protesting because they shouldn't have criticism. I don't think that.
I said that the justices, with the security, maybe they feel like they should be shielded from criticism because of them needing the security now. And everybody can get it. Everyone can, be subjected to criticism. And I don't think that they should feel like they shouldn't be. That's what I'm saying.
In this country, we have that right to vote. We have that right to go out and say how we feel about something, whether we like it or not. When we do that, everybody's not going to be on the same page. I do understand that. But what really bothers me is the point, I want to point out social media. I want to point out the fact we're going to talk about Chris Paul later on in the show. People having access to someone. People knowing what their family looks like due to social media. So not only do they show up to your house, you're concerned at that point, is this as far as it's going to go, or will they cross the line even more? And that's the concern, and that's why they have to put that front line there, so to speak. And it's just so sad that we're back here once again talking about women's rights and possibly them losing to have that right of their body. And that's a problem. And it's really, it's just sad that we're in this space again.
Yeah, and to your point, Demi, protests are how we get change. And I think a lot of times people are feeling, especially in this moment, because you're saying, I don't know if it'll change anything. They don't know what else to do. So that's why they're out there and they're hoping to create change, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You know, but also, too, when you look at going to someone's house, you're inflicting on their personal space, right?
Absolutely.
Because you don't know if their wife or children even feels the same way that the justice feels. You know what I'm saying? So it's also, I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but, too, I just don't know if this type of protest is going to get the change. But we shall see. We shall see. We absolutely will see. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is coming under fire for telling Americans to deal with it on Roe versus Wade. Critics are pointing out that this is coming from a man who is married to a woman who tried to overturn the 2020 election results because she didn't like it. During a judicial conference in Atlanta, Justice Thomas, he complained that Americans are addicted to results that they want. And he warned that the court will not be bullied in the face of protests. His comments come after the leaked Supreme Court opinion that would gut Roe versus Wade. Now, Thomas's critics, they say they're shocked at his comments after his wife, Jeannie Thomas, she was the same person who refused to live with the presidential election. And he was the sole Supreme Court justice to vote that Donald Trump should not have to release White House documents to the White House investigation, investigating on the insurrection. I love the internet, first of all, because the internet is so great because they don't let you forget anything. Like, everybody's like, oh, this is funny. Now you want us to forget when it's something to you. And so I feel like Jeannie and Clarence Thomas are so out of touch about what's going on down here. They're so, like, they were online. People were criticizing them because they were enjoying a $5,000 bottle of wine. And it's like, not that you can't enjoy your $5,000 bottle of wine, but you're so out of touch with the black Americans, as a black man, too, might I add, that it's going to have black children, possibly have black children. I don't even know if he has children or not. But my point is, as a black man, you're out of touch with the black women that don't have health care, that don't have access to have a safe abortion. You're not even connected with what's going on with the real world right now.
Yeah, I mean, Clarence Thomas, I'm sorry, is a walking contradiction. To tell people to get over Roe v. Wade when your wife was literally trying to overthrow the United States government does not make any sense. And it's just so hypocritical that you could take this stance and tell people to get over it when you were the only person who voted to keep the documents from the January 6th committee in support of your wife in trying to overthrow the entire 2020 election. So, I can't take anything right now that he's saying serious because you want us to get over it, but you want us to look past what your entire wife is doing right now.
If there is a household that needs to be quiet, it's Clarence Thomas' household. Him and his wife saying, doing too much. Meanwhile, the majority of Americans, including slightly more than half of Republicans, are against Congress passing a bill that would ban abortion nationwide. The CBS News YouGov poll says 67% of Americans are against an abortion ban, and only 57% of people who want Roe overturned support a federal ban. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says a national ban is possible depending on the vote. The White House says they are taking the threat seriously. Take a look.
As the president has said over the course of the last nearly week, his concern is about, yes, a woman's right to make choices about her own health care, about what this final opinion could be. It's also about what choices could be made that go beyond that.
Now, Democrats plan to use the threat of the national ban to rally female and progressive voters to the polls in November.
And the White House is condemning an attack on an anti-abortion office in Wisconsin. The Office of Wisconsin Family Action was vandalized and set on fire over the weekend. Police say it was arson. Investigators found 2 Molotov cocktails inside the building, but police say they were not ignited. So far, police have no suspects.
And aides in the U.S. House of Representatives are about to get a pay raise. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she says that the minimum annual salary for House aides will now be $45,000 a year. Pelosi also announced that she's scheduling a vote on a resolution that would allow staffers to join a union. Congressional aides have complained for years that they're underpaid. Black aides, however, in particular, they say many young African Americans would love to work on Capitol Hill, but the low pay keeps them from working on the Hill.
Democratic mega donor George Soros is helping get Stacey Abrams elected governor of Georgia. Soros gave her campaign $1 million days after she qualified to make another run for the governor's office. Far-right conservatives love to attack Soros, and many other critiques are considered anti-Semitic. The donation was given to One Georgia Leadership Committee formed by Abrams. It's the first time the Political Action Committee has received a donation. That's because of a state law that only allows people nominated for governor to raise funds for their leadership campaigns.
And the Biden administration and the nation's largest 20 internet providers plan to reduce costs for low-income Americans. The White House says the move will increase access to high internet speeds for 48 million households. In some cases, families will not have to pay anything.
High-speed internet is not a luxury any longer. It's a necessity. And that's why the bipartisan infrastructure law included $65 billion to make sure we expand access to broadband internet in every region of the country, urban, suburban, and rural. Everywhere.
To qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program, a person must either receive SNAP, Medicaid, or have a child that receives free or reduced lunch.
An algorithm being used to help social workers decides which families should be investigated for abuse disproportionately flags African American families. An Associated Press review, it identified a number of concerns about the technology. Now, the concerns included questions about its reliability and potential to harden racial disparities in the child welfare system. Now, a report by Carnegie Mellon University found that social workers in Pennsylvania County disagreed with the algorithm's finding 1/3 of the time. The program in Allegheny County disproportionately flagged black children for mandatory neglect investigations.
Patrick Loyola, the African-American immigrant shot to death by a Grand Rapids, Michigan police officer, died of a gunshot to the back of the head. This is the result of a medical examiner's report. The report also shows Loyola's blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. The cause of death also confirms the family's independent autopsy. Christopher Scher, the officer who shot Loyola after a traffic stop, has worked in law enforcement for 7 years. He's on administrative leave pending an investigation by Michigan State Police.
And the mother of Daunte Wrights, the black Minnesota man who was killed by a police officer, says she was injured by an officer during a traffic stop. Katie Wright says she pulled over her car last week to record police who had pulled over another driver. She says she wanted to make sure nothing happened to the motorist. Body cam shows the officer crossing over several lanes to ask Wright for her ID, but she refused to give it to him.
You know who I am, right? No, my name is Katie Wrights. And I promise you guys killed my son, and I'm going to videotape it. And if you take me to jail, I will sue you. I don't care. Do not ever touch me again. I don't care. Don't touch me again. You can send me a ticket, but don't touch me again. I'm not under no. You don't have that. No, I did not get pulled over. You do not. Legally, you cannot ask me who I am. No, you can't. No, you can't.
A Brooklyn Center police statement says the officer approached Wright because the person being arrested did not want to be videotaped. Wright's son was shot to death by a Brooklyn Center cop, Kim Porter, who says she mistook her gun for a taser.
A Miami school district is investigating a racial incident between a parent and teenagers outside of a middle school. This is the video of the incident. The parents, who did not want to be identified, they say the man hurled racial slurs at the black teens after he accused them of hitting his car. The parents of the children are angry with the man, and they say that the man threatened their children. When the parents tried to talk to the man, they say that he drove off. Now, no one was hurt, but school officials say they will look into the incident.
In Flint, Michigan, a black city council member is accusing a white colleague of calling her ghetto under her breath at a meeting. Another black colleague overheard the remark and brought it to the attention of the committee. Jerry Winfrey Carter, the person who was the subject of the comment, says the comment was unprofessional and offensive. The comment was made by a white Michigan councilwoman, Eva Worthing. She said she made the comment because she was frustrated by how Carter was leading the meeting. Worthing says Carter then threatened to, quote, go all out on her because she told her she was chairing the meeting incorrectly. Worthing has issued an apology for her comment on Facebook. She says she has been the victim of name calling as well in meetings, but says she is sorry for her choice of words. She is lucky it did not go further than what it did. We've seen this happen where people go in and they're protesting, they have something to say, how they want change, whether it's in the school district, in the committee, and there's people that are ignoring them, and then you have this situation. This is happening more often than not. This is what it is in the country right now, and it's so unfortunate. But again, just because it happened to you doesn't mean you have to do that to someone else. At some point, someone has to put a stop to it and say, I'm bigger than this, but she failed that test.
You know, I just always wonder, what does the word ghetto mean to white people? I mean, like, and I'm not even trying to be, like, funny, but, like, what does the word ghetto mean? Do you even know what, because I don't even know when we use ghetto. Like, we use it as, like, oh, girl, that's ghetto. But, like, what does ghetto even mean? Like, to me, that just feels like there's another word that she really wanted to use, but that was the first word that could come to mind. And I just feel like that's how a lot of people look at us, is ghetto. But I would love to know, like, what does ghetto look like to white people? Like, what does ghetto mean to a white person?
Well, clearly it wasn't a nice term.
Yeah.
She wasn't using it in a way where she was praising the woman at all. So, you know, what really got me is that she apologized, but it was like in her apology, she was almost the victim. And so when she apologized, she said, I've been called a nasty white woman. My children and my occupation have been brought up, and my white privilege has been mentioned solely to degrade my opinions. And she went on to say some other things, and then she said, but I'm sorry. I think that if you called someone ghetto because you did not like the way she was conducting a meeting, then it's just, I'm sorry. You know, you don't continue with an explanation of why you did it and how you're being harmed. It's just, I'm clearly sorry.
You can't water down your apology with all of that in front or in back of it. I mean, just be honest, be true to yourself and say, you know what, I messed up. I said the wrong thing. It's my fault. Yes, I've been hurt, but we don't want to hear all that about you being hurt. We want to hear you saying you're sorry so we can move on with this meeting, but there we go.
And I just think there's some words that should be off limits. And I believe that ghetto is one of those words that should be off limits to certain groups of people.
Hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. And so if you know that it hurt you, you knew that it was going to hurt another person.
You did it on purpose.
How about just not saying it?
True.
Absolutely. And a Texas woman is being charged in the murder of her boyfriend after she told him 26 years ago that he was killed by a black man in Southern California. Anonymous tip to Southern California Santa Ana Police Department prompted cops to reopen the murder of the case of Christopher Hervey. Investigators say new forensic evidence tied Jade Benning to the 1996 death. Police say Benning lied when she told officers that an intruder broke into her home and killed him. Benning, who has been living in Austin, Texas, was arrested last week and has been extradited back to California. Investigators say they received an unsigned letter identifying her as the killer.
And Patrisse Cullors, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, says despite the allegations of financial improprieties, she nor anyone else in leadership roles misused millions of dollars in donations.
No, I never received a salary from the organization, but I did receive consulting dollars from the organization in the early days. And it was about $120,000 that I received. I believe that Black organizers who are fighting day in, day out on behalf of Black lives deserve to receive salaries, deserve to receive benefits. In fact, for most of my organizing life, I was not an organizer that received a salary. You know, the idea that Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation received millions of dollars and then I hid those dollars in my bank account is absolutely false.
Cullors admitted BLM was ill-prepared to handle the tidal wave of contributions in the aftermath of the protests over George Floyd's death. Now, she says the foundation was slow to build the necessary groundwork. Recent disclosures that the foundation purchased a $6 million compound unleashed a torrent of criticism and social media chatter. But Cullors defended the purchase, and she said not only many Black-led organizations' properties, they also didn't own their property as well. And she also admitted that the organization did make some mistakes and even some regrettable choices that have not fostered trust. Now, that's including using the BLM property twice for personal uses. And we talked about this yesterday, that there was the one party for Kamala Harris and President Biden, but that's okay to me. I feel like using the property, that's still kind of BLM. Kamala Harris is Black, you know, and like presidential, getting Black people to vote, you can kind of make that make sense. But using the property for your son for a party, that's kind of inexplainable. You can't explain yourself out of that one.
Well, she said she went back and she rented the property, and she didn't say how much, but she said that she had them bill her for the use. But you're right, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't.
But you know, to her point, I do think that Black leaders, if you are the helm, if you're leading an organization, you should be paid a salary. I think the problem here is that, like you said in the story, that so much money came in and they didn't keep really great books. And so what it looks like, whether what it is, it just looks like a mess. It looks like money is being spent here and it's being frivolously spent, and no one knows where it's coming from, and then you're showing up with different houses. And so people are asking questions.
Yeah, I just think there's a couple of problems. One, if there's that much money coming in, you can hire someone to take care of that. There's never a problem. People handle big money all the time. Two, I don't really understand the purchase of the home. I mean, that's what kind of really throws me off course. What is the use for it? I mean, that's $6 million that could have been put towards something else, whether it's scholarships, to pay off some debt. There's so many other ways. You could have rented an office. That's the problem I have with it. Unless you're showing me a whole different plan that you've been doing with this home, I can't see why you spend $6 million for a
Romeo,
house.
you're right. Absolutely. It's a beautiful home. Like, it has like a basketball court, a big pool.
Yeah.
It's like 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms. It is like a super Hollywood type of house. I do believe that this was going to be used to make money. I feel like maybe she wanted to even live there. She got a little bit antsy with the money because I believe that Black Lives Matter made like $66 million like days before this house was bought. And so I believe that there was some personal use that was intended for this, and she didn't think it through. And then she got backfired, so then she had to, talk her way out of it. But again, Romeo, like you said, what would be the need for a $6 million
So some questions
home?
to be answered.
Well, she said she wanted Black creators to have a space where they can come and they can do certain things.
A mini mansion?
Listen, I'm just telling you what she said.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
There's offices. You can do that in the office. I just know that.
Exactly.